Alan, Warren, welcome to the show, brother.
Oh, thank you. It's good to be here.
How are you doing?
Well, I'm surviving.
Aren't we all?
Yeah. Good days, bad days. No, it's been really busy for me for through this time of the year. It's been real busy, but it's good overall. Good.
Yeah. Any specific reason why it gets busy this time of the year for you?
Well, I think what happens is because I do a lot of writing and I do a lot of shows, so I'm doing stuff, and then all of a sudden, my publicist gets crazy and gives me a lot of work to do. And all of a sudden, I got to do these articles and I got to do these shows. And then at the same time, I've got a book in being published. So you got an editor coming back every day or two of them, and they're like, give you a list of things that they spot or think they should change. Right. So, so it's just like every day I've got like 20 emails of things that I'm supposed to do. And I can get up at 5, 6 in the morning, and by the time I'm finished, it's already dinner time. It's crazy. So it's been busy. And I'm not complaining. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's all good. I'm glad that I've got the opportunity to do this stuff and that people are responding. So this is great. But it'd be nice to sleep in. But you know what? It gets to a point where even I have a day off, I'm supposed to be able to sleep in, and I can't. You wake up. So
Yeah, I know the feeling. But this is just the era that we're living in right now in the business, right?
yeah,
And you someone who's been through the different eras, from the traditional way of how it was done versus living in the digital space. It does never stop. So I can relate. And even on the days of, as you said, because you're so used to getting up at a certain time, it's just normal. It's normal. Like a Saturday or Sunday, for example, you think, okay, today I'm going to chill out, but it doesn't happen. Even for myself, it just does not happen.
doesn't happen. And I have dogs. Like I do a little dog rescue because I've got 3 acres. So I get the old dogs, 5 years and older, that are small and medium, that come from the pound. And so nobody wants them. So they come here to foster, but I keep them, right? So of course they keep me busy too, because there's a lot of work. Got to walk them every day and take care of them and all that stuff, which is good. Actually, if anything, that keeps me grounded more than anything else I have in my life, because it
That you
takes me
could that you could label as your downtime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even though it's crazy because I take them out and we go on these big 5K walks, and I'm walking and then I'm thinking about the books and the characters and the things and stuff. So I'm still in my mind, it's still going, but at least I'm out in the fresh air walking. You know what I mean? It's keeping me kind of, rather than I'm not just sitting at a desk. So it's good. It's good. I have to say I'm happy about that too.
Yeah. And this is just what's expected from authors in 2026, right? And so many out there among all these groups, and they're struggling to keep up. They're struggling to keep up. And of course, there's a percentage that are just too lazy to put in the effort that you are putting in, because this is what it takes. Unfortunately, this is what it takes. For any author out there listening to the show right now, this is what it takes in 2026. And you just have to fit it in, and it's good that you have a team, you have a publisher, You have an editor, you have a publicist. For those that don't, they have to, take on all those responsibilities. Unfortunately, if you can't afford, whoever you may need to be part of your team. But I'm sure, when you started off, there was a time where, hey, I need to do this now for myself until I can actually generate enough revenue to actually pay for publicists. So it's a process.
Yeah. I'm cheap. I'm cheap. So that was just this I started.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Even
So where are you coming to us from?
well, today I'm in a place called Kelowna, and it's in BC in Canada. How's that?
Okay. And I guess what's this?
West between Vancouver and Calgary. And I have a house here, and this is where I'm at a lot. So, yeah, it's my getaway.
Oh, yeah. And what's the time there right now?
Oh, let's see. It is just 5 minutes after 10 in the morning. We're on Pacific time zone. Actually, we don't change times anymore. We stay in one time zone all the time. So, but it's just 10 in the morning, and I'm ready for bed. I've been up 5 hours already.
Well, Ellen, good morning. And once again, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here. When I read about Gate, can be considered by people as fascinating, such as myself, or it can be scary for some people, or dark, as people will love to label it. You, an author of 38 books, you've got your own show, House of Mystery. And we're here today, before I get to that, you're also an expert in cults, serial killers, and criminal psychology. And the name of the book we're here to discuss, which we'll get to a bit later, because, of course, as always, I want to get to know the author, is Peace, Love, and Murder. And when I first read the title, I was like, that's three powerful words in one sentence, right? You know, love, peace, and then murder. Like, what's going on here? But, you are going to elaborate. So, where did it all start for you? Up until the point where you wanted to focus, on these specific topics in your life. What was the why behind it, the reason?
Oh, I don't know if there is one. It just happens. I think I was working for a radio station, and I was producing people that were doing shows, and I got to do an interview with someone, um, Lee Harvey Oswald's girlfriend at the time that he shot the president, and this was years later, and he was seeing this girl, so I got to interview her, and then one thing led to another, and I got a job doing a show. But I think for me, I'm more into the history than the thing that happened, because I think what we do is we miss the setting. The setting kind of gives you the characteristics of everyone and how they're living. Like what is like even with Peace, Love, Murder or something, you take a time like 65 in San Francisco. What does the average person do when they get up in the morning? So they get up in the morning. What do they do? Like, do they make coffee? It's percolated. It's different. They boil it. Like, think about the things that they went through in the morning and how they lived, and also what was going on around them. So, what's going on in the city? What's going on with politics, with life in general? What kind of wage do you make? What kind of jobs are there? What's the excitement? Who's the movie star at the time? What music are they listening to? You have to get the whole setting, so it takes a long time, and I'm really fascinated by that, because then it brings together peace, love, and murder. Because then you understand how there's let's say the peace generation, the hippie movement, the love, and then how you get Manson and how you can get murder. And he wasn't the only one, right? There's several. So he's just got the spotlight here. And that's with all of the books. It's always started with a historical point of view. Because I think that, well, there's a couple of reasons. One is if you're a 20-year-old right now, you're born in 2000, 25 years old, and something like that, you have no idea what it was like to be around in 1960 or 1940 or any time I'm taking on a historical book. And I think that's really important that you understand it, and you've got to do it by the setting, the characters, the lifestyle, the beliefs, everything. And then that helps you to understand maybe why people were acting or reacting or what they were doing and why they were doing it. And it fits better. And then, because I'm also a strong believer that someone like, okay, when we take Manson here, he could have never done what he did the way he did it any other time and place in the world, in history. And so if you ignore that history, you ignore the setting, then you're missing a big part of the story. So that's kind of how I attack all of my books, whether it's cults, whether it's involved in murder, or whether it's just something else, just history. It's really important to capture the whole scenery. You should be able to wake up and feel what it's like to be there at that time. I don't know if that helps or makes sense. So anyway, that's kind of how I got my start that way, doing history. And it just led to this because of the show I do. I interview a lot of people that are in situations like this. Like with the Manson, I got to interview tons of his family members, survivors, people that were involved, prosecutors, police, and over the years of doing the show. And I assembled all those interviews, and then I started putting the story together. So that's how, and that's with all of them. It's just the years of meeting and talking with people.
Okay, so for the listeners and myself included, who is Charles Manson? And why could what he did could have only been done in that time?
Well, if it, again, it's the setting. Who he was he was just he didn't have a great childhood, and he grew up place to place. Several men in his life that took the place of a father. He ended up doing a lot of, small crimes, going to boys' schools, and eventually prison. And I think in prison was a sense for him, was really his, how do you say, that was his kind of growing period where he formed people around him that taught him things. So he learned a lot about different religions and different aspects, even how to play guitar. It was all in prison, but also his dislike for African Americans and colored people, that came from prison, from his interactions there. He developed a lot of those things, and he took kind of the best of it all. If anything, you could say the prison was his parents. That's where he grew up. And so when he came out and ended up in San Francisco, um, it was the right movement. He had all these 15, 14-year-old girls and boys running to San Francisco, hanging out on the streets, some running away from home and just trying to find peace and love. They really believed in that, the whole Woodstock and the whole generational thing of the 60s, that's where it's at. And the parents were kind of squares, and that sort of was the perfect setting for him because he had 10 years of experience in prison. He was more in his 30s. So to take these kids that were half his age and to focus on them and to give them the support and love that they were looking for, they were just right for the picking. Why say it's not something that could happen today? It's just like people were not in that mindset. They didn't believe in that sort of thing like they do. You know what I mean? It was a different timing. So you had a lot of immature people. You didn't have the internet. You didn't have even a good phone system. And a lot of the people we talked to, like even like Snake, who was Diane Lake, who was one of the family members, her parents gave her to Manson at 14. Said, here, because they were going on a love journey. And the dad quit his job and he got an old bread delivery truck and turned it into a camper. And they got rid of the kid type thing. And they were going to drive around and live free and happy, peace, love, that's all of those things were going on. Without that, he wouldn't have the audience. He wouldn't have the victims to choose from. He would have to be a different person in a different time in order, you know what I mean? He was just ripe for that time. It just worked. It was just too perfect. And believe me, it's not that he's good. It's just the setting. It's just what happened. And you'll see this throughout history. He's not the only one. It's happening today even. Things that people do say and get away with are only because of what's going on in today, like with, let's say, social media, the internet, and the world that we live in. That goes on throughout history. And there's some people that can take the setting and manipulate it to get what they want. And he's just one that did.
So he was a cult leader.
You could call it that. I mean, for sure. He was a leader. I mean, I don't distinguish much difference between when someone says cult leader or someone says a leader of a political party or a leader of a religion or anything, because in a sense, because if you take the context out of it, like what they're doing or all that stuff, it's the same thing. Like you're drawn to a movie star for a reason. You get favorite movie stars. You just love them in a movies, everything they do, or music. Oh, I love every song they do. And you go see them in concert and you're following them in a way. And that's the setting for that, a concert or for a movie star or TV star. These have settings. Cults have their own setting. And back then, again, it was a different than it is today, because back then you'd have to go live with him. You'd have to go stay with him. And then you'd be sort of isolated with him. So he has more of an ability to work. You don't get that in other settings. And even today, so many of these groups and cults that get together, they have a group online. So they're out living with each other. It's a different setting. So you have to do it differently today. But in a way, I guess it's like a cult, but it's not all bad. It's just what he did was bad, but not every group is bad.
Yeah, that's what was going through my mind now. What makes you and I, for example, different to him? So the setting in 2026 at the moment, and as you mentioned, social media. So Alan Warren has a following. There's people that, read his books. He has a community. He has his own group. He has his own radio show. There's Kino Isaac. There's the Kino Isaac podcast and everything else that Kino does. And then he has his following there. So are we cult leaders as well?
Oh yeah, especially you, huge cult. No, in a way, that's why I said I don't always. The cult is sort of, it's kind of associated with a lifestyle and a style. You think of cult, you think of all these people living at a certain location, like commune or a farm or a ranch, and they're all doing stuff together. And that's not necessarily, that's not broad enough, because you're following, they're not living with you, right? The people that are listening to your show and like you and all that, just like the ones with me, they're not here with me and my dogs. They listen, they like, they relate, and then they move on. They have their own life. The old cult setting of the 60s, like what Manson, and he's not the only one, even right through the 90s, it was a setting where you would like someone. It would be like you inviting your listeners to come live with you. You had a farm and a ranch, and you said, you know what, guys, if you like me, come on over. And they all came over and they all set up shop and started living there. and using your shower and bathroom and everything, and they're hanging with you. That becomes more of a cult because then you start working as one. We're more in the celebrity cult aspect. Not that we're big celebrities like, let's say, Lady Gaga or something, where we have millions, but we have a slight following for what we do. But they live their life. Like, they're not changing their life for us. You know, they might be married, they might have a job, they have kids or whatever they do. They're not up selling their home or moving out of their apartment, quitting the job and coming to stay with you or me. And that's sort of the difference. So we're cult light. It's not really the same. It's the same draw. And it's also the same draw of how serious people are with who they follow. I mean, you might get a couple people that are totally obsessed with you. And it doesn't mean necessarily like they're infatuated, but they're obsessed with everything you say and do. Man, he's just everything. And you might get some of those. But again, you're not acting on it. You're not setting up a place where, okay, come on, you like me so much, come over and do my laundry. You're not in that setting. So, and also today it's not the same sort of setting. I mean, sure, it can go on, but it's not the same. So I don't know if Manson could get away with even half of what he did in today's setting because of that.
Yeah, yeah. It's still dangerous though, right? Because there's so many examples, and I can mention one celebrity that has millions of followers all around the world, Taylor Swift. Now, I enjoy her music, you know.
Mhm.
I feel she's quite talented, but behind any business, including the book industry, there's a lot of politics that goes on, behind the scenes. And people can be quite ruthless, especially at that level. And I recall one incident, when Taylor Swift influenced her followers to target a certain executive because the dispute for the rights for music was going on. And it got quite intense. I mean, this guy was getting death threats from fans, average fans from all around the world. So can be dangerous as well, even in this
Oh, yeah.
era.
Oh, yeah, 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 because
Yeah.
the people have more access to you, and there's more ability to find out where you're at. Oh, okay. He heard that, someone, oh, I heard he's in Kelowna, so they're gonna drive around the city looking for me. There's gonna be that, and that's just one of the things but that's what's different about today. You could have never done that in 1965. Unless you were part of the CIA, you were not. You couldn't just go on and go, "Oh, Taylor Swift, where does she live? Where is she playing? What's she doing?" Like, it wasn't that easy. And even then, just getting around wasn't the same, like transportation and finding them and all. It just wasn't the same. I mean, now you can go on Google Maps and find people and do things. Like, it's just different. So, yeah, I think we always have to be concerned about that. But over the years, if anything, I tend to care less about people I like. And I mean this in a way of, like, let's say Taylor Swift or anybody that I listen to or like. I mean, if you know what I mean, not in a bad way. I just kinda look at it and kinda go,
Yeah.
"Wow," I like their music or I like their movies, but, there's so much stuff online you can hear about them, and how much is true and how much isn't, and how much is told because someone doesn't like them or someone really likes them, and I guess I've met enough over the years that I realize they're just humans like we are. They're just living like we are, and they have the same like coffee or they like tea and they like this and they don't like that. They have the same problems with, let's say, weight or eating garbage food or, whatever. They're just humans. And we see a polished side of them, a side that is meant to sell, because they're not going to show you some of the stuff. And I just think, well, I'm not that infatuated with people anymore, like I used to be. Let's say as a 20-year-old or 18-year-old, used to be excited about different groups or people. Now it's kind of like, yeah, I really can like them, but I leave it at that. So I think maybe from all the writing I've done, maybe that's turned me into a little bit less excitable. That's all. So I'm not following Taylor. No big deal.
Possibly, because, once you find your purpose and you find something that you truly enjoy and love doing, and there's meaning in your life now, I get what you're saying, you like fade out of what's going on around the world or what's going on with celebrities, and you just focused on your own life and what you need to get done. So I completely get that. I mean, to sum everything up, for what we've been chatting about, there's just so much, manipulation that happens.
Yeah.
There's good manipulation, there's bad manipulation, but it happens. And there's every people where the manipulation just takes them overboard. And I feel it's because they've been missing something in their life that they never had, just like Charles, right? Charles
Yeah.
was missing something in his life. And this person is bringing it to me, even though I have never met them. I've just seen them on TV, or I've been to their concert, or I read their book. And this person now has become, as you said, now Charles was in prison, and that became his family. That was where his parents were, and it's just happening differently in 2026. So yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for that.
Yeah, no, and that's it, because even when we get to if a new writer or someone says, "Well, what should a new writer do, or what should someone doing that's starting?" Listen, the more you can focus on what you need to put out there, whether you're a writer, whether you're an actor, whether you're a singer, whatever you do, um, you focus on what's important to you and what you want to do, what you want to get accomplished, and avoid as much of the noise around you as you can. Because the more noise you get involved in, the less you focus on what you're doing. And if you're doing stuff, what happens is you end up responding to the noise with your writing or your work or your shows or whatever you're doing, right? And that's not the way to get what it's not the way to get your art out there or your what you're trying to do. You shouldn't be doing something in response to things because of something said online or something to you or something or a follower or a
Yeah.
review. You gotta be like, this is what I want to do. This is how I do it. This is what I believe. And you're sort of doing it. And then the response is the response. You can't help what people are gonna if they like or dislike. But you got to keep doing what you do to fulfill your own goals, right? Your own needs. And that keeps you kind of happy and moving forward. And you can't get into the game of, you know, you know, Sally over here gives you a 1 star because whatever. It's kind of like, oh, sorry, Sally. And you just got to kind of keep. So I don't look at any of that stuff. Believe it or not, I've gone totally away from that. And I do the posts that I have to on social media, and then I run. And that's it, right? Just like with just like with reviews and stuff, I'm not looking. I'll just kind of like I'll go. Let's say I'm on Goodreads. I'll look and it'll say, let's say 1,000 reviews. You're a 4.0 author. Fantastic. That's better than I'd give myself a 3. So that's better. That's great. If I can get that good, then I'm just going to keep on going and getting better and not worry about it about someone that you
Yeah.
know so avoid the noise and it's not always easy, but try to stay on
Mm,
track. That's what I always
mm.
say. Yeah,
It's
it's
not
not always
easy,
easy. No.
definitely. It's not easy. And what you just mentioned, we see happening in politics the most these days. We're living in a world that is driven by emotions. People are so emotional, and leaders of the world tap into that emotion. And once you tap into someone's emotion, that person cannot think logically. There's no pragmatic, realistic thinking going on. You know, I've tapped in. And once you've tapped in, you've got them hooked. And they will do whatever you tell them to do. People are just driven by emotions in 2026.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
too bad.
as you said, it's not easy to block it out.
No, it's not. No, it's the hardest thing in the world. And I'm not saying it is. Like I don't run news, I don't watch news, I don't have any of that stuff on. I'll see clips, I'll hear things, but for the most part, um, just ignore it, in the sense of, you're going to get up tomorrow and it's the same thing. I get up the next day, I'm still here. And the sun's shining. I got work to do and I'm doing it because that's what I do. And that works for me. And you gotta just sort of, I don't know. I guess I've lived long enough that I've heard a lot of the same things that people complain about in politics and life, immigrants, work, prices, gas, this war, that war. You know how many I've been through in 60 some years? It's crazy. And I don't, it's not going to end now. It'll keep on going until I'm long gone. And the thing is, if I just sit here and go, my God, it is and that, and people want to generalize too. They get all stressed and upset, and fair enough. But let's not, categorize like we want to make it easy. Oh, it's the Jews, it's the drag queens, it's like, it's like they pick a category, and it's that group that's the enemy. If it wasn't for them, everything would be beautiful. It's not the way it is.
Yeah,
It just isn't.
yeah,
It was We're so varied as human beings. We've got so many different things to each one of us, and there's billions of us, and we're all trying to get along. Well, and some of us aren't. But the thing is, you got to get up and kind of move forward, and try to be more positive. I think, it sounds really corny, but I'm trying to be more positive with everything online, with people I meet, with people you do. You go out, you do stuff, you got to be more, well, that's great. And focus on good things and focus on what we do have that's so good and try to make it what we're thinking about. And then we have a possible positive attitude toward the things that aren't good. Because every day of my life, there's been good things going on and bad things going on in the world outside. So let's try to bring other people up rather than down. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's like I said, it's kind of a corny thing, but the reality is, if you got up and thought about what are three really good things in my life, what are three great things to have today, and if you thought about that, it's gonna be a better day. It's not gonna stop the bad from happening. It's not gonna stop the war going on in Iran and stuff. But you know what? It makes it a little bit better. It makes that day a little bit more positive. And if you can do that for someone around you and even people you come in contact with, just say something nice. Just say, don't go out there and say, "Oh, you see what so and so did today? See what so you see that," and it's like, stop that, because whether it's true or not, you saying it just is bringing the whole room down. So stop, just say something good. Like, wow, you get to have a big Starbucks coffee and you got this great donut in front of you and you got a job and it's sunny. Why are you talking about some dip somewhere halfway across the world? I mean, you can do that, but I'm just saying that try to take it from a better perspective, a more better angle. And it's not easy to do. And I have bad days too, but come on, we got to try and make it a better, because look how much we've got. Look at this internet thing and how many good things we got. Because so much stuff on the whole social media and internet, man, we can talk to people across the world and talk to relatives. It used to be in my day, you'd wait till after 8 to make a phone call because it was so expensive. Um, and now we can see each other and do that. You can do research, you can read books, you can do so many good things with this
mhm,
technology, and we're living in it. Holy cow. So, but of course, what do humans do? Of course, we have to take it and do some bad, comments and stuff. And they say, no, let's focus on the positive. Get rid of that negative stuff. And if you see someone online, you see it's really kind of bringing you down, just delete that person and move on. Ignore it because you don't need it. But
yeah, yeah,
you're going to come across hard
yeah.
things. Yeah, and that helps. Anyway, that's me on my soapbox. So
Yeah, it's doom scrolling, you know?
yeah.
majority of the people around the world, they just love doom scrolling. Like, you are in charge of your algorithm,
Mhm.
So if you come, and that's what I've done in my own social media platforms. Like, if I come across something that's happening in the world that adds no value to my life, you know, the platform itself gives you an option: interested, not interested. Click not interested. And
Yeah.
then something positive comes along, motivational speaker, whatever, whoever, click interested. And you are just going to keep seeing more and more positive stuff coming on your feed.
Yeah.
But people are just so drawn into the negativity and the wars,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, and that's always going on. That's why even
something
like
that's happening
yeah,
on the
yeah,
other side of the world. You ask, yeah, you know,
yeah,
the
yeah,
question, like I ask myself, okay, if I am going to get involved in this, is it going to better my life? Is it going to make it worse? Is it going to help me with my own goals, my own ambitions? You know? So that's the message out there. Well, I mean, we can talk about this for hours and hours, about the world and what's going on and how people react to it. So, with peace, love, and murder, confirm in me, the book is released.
yes, yeah. It's out everywhere now. Yeah.
Yeah. And when did it get released?
Well, September 20th of last year was the official release in the US, and then a month later in Canada, and then in November, the rest of the world. So it came out in 3 stages. And and now I'm talking about it. I've been slow to the promotion part of this. I had too much going on and stuff. So yeah, but now I'm out there talking about it and yeah, so it's out now. You can buy it at all bookstores and of course Amazon and of course at my website or just anywhere. Anybody that sells it. Anyone that sells good books will have it.
Yeah. And the book itself, are we looking at like an autobiography of Charles Manson? Where do you go with the book? Do you mention like all the events that happened from start to finish and how his life ended in whichever way?
Yeah, I think it's not a terribly graphic and it's not violent and it isn't you do know what happens, but it's more told from the perspective of um like I said, there's things going on, it's San Francisco, the peace, Haight-Ashbury movement, you've got the race riots, you've got the Vietnam War, you've got the assassination of the presidents, but you've also got the moon landing. There's a lot of things going on, and it's all set there. And then you've got how people are kind of getting along and around. And with Manson, I think that the best thing you get about the story from this is you find out more about him and how he acted and reacted. Because so many people just think it's straightforward. Helter Skelter, he's heard from the Beatles, he's supposed to do this, and he went out and started killing or having his family kill. And that's not what was going on. There was things that were happening in his life that he was reacting to, and so then he would him have his family and members, friends do things. And then something else would happen and he would react again and react again. So it's kind of taking you along that evolution of how one thing went to another. I've also interviewed many of the members, and it's also kind of throwing in their 2 cents of where they came from and why they acted and reacted in the way they did to something that he was telling them. And so it kind of gives you an overall just perspective of the timing and how he fits in that place. And what about the things were going on? Like one of the first things was that you get as an example was when him and one of his male members, friend of the family, just at the beginning, they went out to rob a drug dealer and they were going to kill him and take his money. And the guy he went with, when they were there, dropped the gun and ran, got scared. So Manson shot the drug dealer and took the money and left. The next day in the paper, there was a report of a Black Panther drug dealer that was killed. So he bragged to all of the family members, that was me. But it wasn't. It was a different person in the paper. So he didn't really kill the guy. He just shot him and took his money. So, but how did he respond? He got scared. So he started having his male members go around 24/7 on guard at the ranch with weapons because he said the Black Panthers were going to come get him. They're going to make him pay for killing this drug dealer. And it never happened. But in his mind, it did. But it shows you how he wasn't planning this. It's just something that he went to do, didn't happen, and he reacted, and that caused another reaction. And that's how it went all the way down the line. You'll see that with every one of these crimes committed, that it was more of a reaction to something that he believed because of something that he had done before. And I think that's the most interesting part of the book, is that you're kind of getting just the storyline, no drama, none of the stuff, it just kind of what he was doing and how and what made him kind of do things. And I think it's a better perspective of who Manson was. Makes you realize that he's just a human.
Yeah,
And he
yeah,
he had his fears and his anxiety like we all did, and he handled it his way. And that's sort of, you start to understand, I think, more the story rather than just that movie or idea of Helter Skelter and the whole court thing. Even that's explained too, because that didn't happen the way it was. But Bugliosi, who tried the case eventually, wasn't the main guy. The main prosecutor got removed because of doing some illegal things. Bugliosi got put into it. He had to take this case and run with it. So he did. So he even talked about in his interviews how he knew there was a lot of these things that like are in this book here, but he couldn't bring those in because he couldn't lose the case. It was widely publicized, you know, and so he ran with the Helter Skelter thing, knowing that that was just a small part of it. But he knew that he could sell that and get him convicted, and that was the goal because he wanted it done. And I don't blame him for that. I'm not. Some people say bad things about that, but I think that he needed to get the job done. And so anyway, so that's all sort of explained in the book. It's more of a reality story than um, a lot of the stuff, if that makes sense.
yeah. No, no, 100%. It makes sense. And what you said is interesting because there's always a story or reason behind what any one of us actually do in our life, right?
Right.
And yes, we live in a world where people can be very judgmental. So if someone has killed someone or has become a serial killer, we leave it as that, that person is bad. And I'm not saying this because I'm justifying, murder or being a serial killer. I'm just saying that there's a reason behind it. And that's why I said at the start, what you focus on with your work does fascinate me because I also, wonder what made that person do that? What was the reason behind it? There has to be a reason behind it. The person never just come into the world and boom, 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 I
Yeah.
want to kill people. What
Right.
happened?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
psychology behind it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's
exactly.
their own world, and that's why it sort of describes the setting of where he's living, why he's living there, how they're eating, how they're dressing, how they get their clothes, how they
Yeah,
get the food. All of that stuff matters because all of a sudden they start doing things like robbing and shooting a drug dealer to get money. Like they're doing things, they're stealing from restaurants, they're doing these things to live how they're living. And then you start seeing how one thing and one mistake leads to another, and then it responds to another. And I think that's a more interesting, it's more of a real story. It's not as flashy as Helter Skelter, but it's the real story. It gives you kind of a perspective that you can kind of go, "Oh, yeah, I can relate. I understand that. I understand this." You feel it because it's real. They're real happenings, they're real emotions, the things we all go through. And I think that sort of comes across that way. And so it gives you a better understanding of how something like this can happen and why, I think, I hope.
Yeah, yeah. And before peace, love, and murder, right? Because now you giving the reason behind why he did what he did. What was like the perception before you and before the book? Are you trying like with your book? Now, I'm just assuming, just assuming for now, to just share some light on his life and the true story behind it.
Yeah, I think what I'm doing is I'm just trying to add to what people already have. People already have this idea that this guy was ruthless in a way. He wanted to get what he wanted and he would do anything he could to get it. But he didn't start that way. Like you said, you're not born that way. There was a path he took. And I think a lot of that has been missed in time in the, not only that, when they make movies and shows about him, they have to do these couple hours. They don't have time to go through all that, right? They just get into the dirt because
Yeah.
people are, they watch it and they'll get bored. They got to keep it moving, keep the pace. So they're going to throw in all the wild stuff and the excitement and the drama. Whereas a lot of that gets missed. And so this book's not about that. This book's more about if you want to get more of the details of everything else going on around it. And it's not an excuse for him and it's not justifying it, but it just sort of gives you a better perspective of how these things grow into something that turned out to be this major murder that happened in a couple of days. And and it just helps fill in lost details, perspectives, I think. It's kind of the way That's the way I approach all the books. I try to anyway, and that's sort of what's going on here. It's taking away the idea of just him being some psycho that went crazy and then did this stuff in a matter of a week, and everyone's wow, and that's kind of that week gets focused on more than anything else in the time period, and there's just so much more to it than that. That's
Yeah.
just kind of like the end cap. It's almost like someone cooking a meal. It's just the serving of the meal. That's all you're getting in so many of it. What about the prep of it? And it's kind of a harsh way to say it, but that's kind of,
Yeah.
I think I'm filling in all of the details behind little things like that. Plus I've got each member that was part of the family and stuff, and kind of where they come from, who they were part of, how they come across them, and what their life was like before. And then so it kind of gives you again, because those could be done in great detail, much more than I've done, and I think they would be fascinating to see how someone that's 15 living in somewhere in the U.S. ends up with Manson. Like some of them are fascinating stories, and I think that would be, and they end up being part of murders and all sorts of stuff, and you kind of think, wow, how did this happen? This girl was part of the, cheering squad on a school at 15, and by 19 she's in jail for murder. What? Like, what, you know what I mean? Like, because it's not just an overnight thing. It's sort of something that happens. And again, that's why I get into the setting and what's going on. And you can kind of feel why, maybe understand why people do things.
Yeah.
Oh,
100%. Just, thinking as you were speaking, your work and your book can probably scare a lot of prosecutors around the world, you know? Because think about it, right? A prosecutor, doesn't matter which country, you know,
mhm.
they don't look into, okay, what's the story behind the story. Soon as you murder someone, and once again, for the listeners, I'm not justifying murder, automatically you are labeled a criminal.
Yeah.
Okay. Without further investigation, without looking at the facts, you are labeled a criminal, you know. And at times I get irritated with it. And I'll share a real life example that happened about 3 weeks ago because one of my friends, it was a civil matter, right? That got physical afterwards. So anyway, I accompanied this friend of mine to court because now automatically becomes a criminal charge, right? Because someone made it to the police station first.
Right.
And I go into the prosecutor's office to introduce myself, because the friend I'm with now, of course, is traumatized about, what happened.
Right.
So I went along. And the prosecutor looks at me and says, okay, so this is the person and they're here because of this. And I'm like, yeah, it's a civil matter. And she's like, no, it's a criminal matter. So I looked back at her and I said, that's for the judge to decide because they still have a right to defend themselves. We haven't even listened to their story yet. You haven't even listened to their story yet. And she was quite, you know? So it's an issue.
Yeah.
It's an issue for me, I'm not, there's people who do things who like are really, you can say, commit criminal activities because that's just how it is and that's just what they love doing. So we can label them as, just bad in the world.
Yeah.
But there's things and situations that go down where you think, why would that person, do that? And possibly maybe there was even someone that you've known for quite some time. And then when you start to like dig deeper, for example, let's just say he or she robbed a grocery store. And then automatic thinking by every human, yeah, he's a criminal, she's a criminal. Then you dig deeper and you start to realize, oh no, he lost his job, he has a family, he's been struggling to get a job for the past 6 months, and he needed food, you know? So, once again, not justifying the means to get the food,
Right.
but what are we as the human race now doing to fix that issue so that we can prevent people from committing whatever, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, and
So,
that's important. It's important, and I think that unfortunately, a lot of the most countries don't want to spend the money on that, and that's where it goes in. Policing and prosecuting and courting, and they're already overworked and overdone, and they just want to get the job done, and they just look at, oh, you did this, I have this witness, I have the fingerprints, done, and they just want to get it done, and there's no real journey into finding out if it can be prevented
yeah,
and prevented in future cases or with future people, or what is it about society that's causing this to go on? Is there a fix? And I don't know that there is. I really don't. I wish it was that easy, but yeah, they just most countries are not going to spend that kind of money because they barely spend enough for policing as it is, to be honest. We don't have enough, and we certainly don't have enough on counseling and mental issues and stuff. Um, so many people, so many countries just avoid that, right? And that's the worst mistake. So many we should be spending less on policing in some aspects and more on support and finding out, a lot of it just there's mental and there's issues that we should be working on to help people. And again, it's another cost issue. It's all about money, and we don't have free support for people that have some sort of mental issue that they need to work with or need help with. And it
yeah,
should be, because it's not any worse than if you have a bad leg, or a bad heart. There are issues that we need to care about and fix. And it seems that gets left out a lot. And that's usually the cause of it.
yeah. Yeah, it's the psychological.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
focus so much, on the physical injuries that can
Yeah.
take place, as you've
Mhm.
mentioned, but we pay no attention to the psychological issues. And I told another associate of mine, she's from Afghanistan, but now she's in Indonesia, because of what's been going on there with the Taliban government. and we were chatting the other day, on mental illness. And that's exactly what I told her. Sometimes it's harder to fix what's going on inside than a physical injury. And
Yeah.
there's, as you said, not enough attention towards the topic. And money, there should be enough money for it. No government, I feel like, can really say, hey, we don't have enough money for that. It's like deliberate. We just
Yeah.
don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Let's look at the entire criminal system. It's a business on its own,
Yeah.
right? It's a business on its own. We need criminals. We need people to do bad shit out there. You know?
Well, yeah. Keep me in the work, It's like, I got to go out and do stuff, right? I
Sure.
know, it's weird because what we do is we set things up as a business, and that's how
Yeah.
we can survive it. And then, and you see, with psychological issues, we still demonize them. People look at them as a negative, and they're embarrassed, and it's just still a shame to it. Even though there's a lot of talking and a lot of people moving forward, there's still a real shame. People don't want to admit, oh, I have this issue or I have that issue. And they don't want to tell people, or they don't want it to get out. Their friends will laugh at them, or that someone won't like them, or they can't get a job if they're taking this medication. You know what I mean? There's still a real, we treat it like, yeah, we treat it like it's a lower class. Oh, you're that, you know, and it's ridiculous because it's something to, it's mental, it's psychological, but it's still physical to me. It's just an ailment that your body needs work on. It needs a cure, needs help. It shouldn't make any difference, but unfortunately, it's still a stigma, as you said.
Yeah. But I mean, if you continue preaching, if I continue preaching, and of course, we got other people that are preaching as well, gradually we get the message out there.
Hopefully,
Going
hopefully.
back to what you said earlier on the show about just helping people.
Yeah.
If you notice that, something is off about someone,
Yeah.
ask the question, hey, what's going on? Are you okay? And you never know. You could be saving that person's life,
Yeah.
and you could be saving other people's life because you probably prevented that person from becoming now the serial killer
Yeah.
because of what was going on inside. Now to go
Yeah.
around and just start killing people.
So so someone should have bought Charles Manson a donut. Maybe, one could. A donut and a coffee, he would have been in a better mood, he might have had a better day, and he might have changed that day, right? I mean, no, but it's just you might help someone by doing that, right? You just say, "Hey, how you doing?" "Oh, just buy them a coffee," or say hi. Just something, pot of tea and a donut, and maybe it just makes their day a little better, and then they have a better day and then better results. Hopefully, it's kinda what you do. Hopefully, but
Yeah, that is a great example. So, Alan, every author has a hidden message behind their book, whether it be fiction or nonfiction. I'm assuming this is your message. Look at
yeah.
the facts, understand the story, connect the dots.
Right, right. Just understand that the whole setting, what goes on with people, even today, someone what's going on in their life? What's it like for them? What is going on in their house, their apartment, their job, their relationship, and they get up in the morning. There's a whole lot more to a person than just what makeup they're wearing or what clothes they have on. You know what I mean? There's so many elements, just like there is to us. And just as we have that, they have that. And in order to understand a story better, you have to kind of understand that. You have to kind of, or at least be open to learning what that is. And it's not an excuse and it's not a reason why or any of that stuff. What it is just kind of going, oh, I see that. And maybe we'll see someone in the same place somewhere around that it connects and we go, wow, you know, buy that person a coffee. Like it just connects. Then we kind of go, yeah, and maybe it'll make a change for someone. And I think that's the whole idea. Like I said, that's why it's not a violent, harsh book. It's not like all this blood and gore and all this stuff going on. I don't really focus on that. You need to know, of course, what goes on, but you don't need to know all that. You don't need to get into that. There's writers that'll do that and they do it really well. I'm just not doing that. There's more of a story here. There's more of a feeling behind it, and people like feeling. So that's it.
Yeah. Ellen, you are one of my favorite peoples in the world.
There you go. Thank you. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm putting that out there, I appreciate the work that you're doing and the message that you want to push out. Yeah, it's
Oh, thank you.
definitely needed, it's definitely needed, saying it once again, it's not that Ellen and I are justifying, a murder that took place, from where I'm sitting right now. I just want everyone out there, including the criminal justice system and all prosecutors around the world, to just always look at the facts first before we judge, And yes, if someone did something wrong, look at the psychology behind it, and let's get these people help, so it doesn't happen again to someone else.
Yeah, totally. That's kind of the
All I
goal.
can say. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, Ellen, to conclude, what's next for you besides promoting peace, love, and murder?
Getting a good night's sleep. No, actually, um, I've got a cult interview book in with the publisher, and that's interviews with a lot of people that were like someone that survived the Jim Jones cult that was there as a little girl and got away and lived. And so I've got an interview with her. I've got interviews with people that have been through some of the major cults, and it just kind of their life and how it ended up, kind of what their life is now compared to what it was, that sort of thing. So that's in the publisher right now, and then I'm doing a series of fiction books, uh, just mystery crime fiction books. I'm taking it easy for a while. I'm going to do lighter stuff, a little bit more fun, a little less of the reality. So I've got a series of those. They're short stories, kind of like the Perry Mason style stuff from the 60s, kind of that sort of. So I'm going to do that. I've been working on that. So maybe by the end of the year, those will be out fall, hopefully. Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's it. See, taking it easy.
I don't see where the taking it easy comes in. And I don't know when you're going to get that night's sleep or when you're going to get a chance to actually sleep in, rather.
Well, probably not, but that's okay.
But,
And
yeah. But I mean, that's something else I can also admire about you, that you're extremely passionate about your work and writing, and you're in it until the end. And that's really something to be proud of. Well done to you.
oh, thank you again. I appreciate that.
So, Ellen, where can people find you online?
Oh, best way to do it is just ellenrwarren.com, and it has all the social media links. I'm on every social media platform. And yeah, ellenrwarren.com. That's the best place because you'll see all the connections and where I've been and where I'm at. And it also will give you shows and books.
Yeah, perfect. Alan, thank you so much for the phenomenal, interesting, life-changing conversation. And yeah, I'm going to do
Well,
my best to, get this message out, and it's a message that I am passionate about.
well,
So,
fantastic. Well, and thank you.
great.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. It's a pleasure and all the best. And I wish you nothing but success in 2026 and many more years to come.
Well, thank you. You too.
All right. Okay. Bye, Alan.
Bye bye.